Hello everybody and welcome back to Joy. I am here to practice some more mindfulness with you today, and in particular some more mindful movement. So last time we were together we did cat-cow movement, and today we're going to try tree pose, which I'm sure most of you already know, and I picked a perfect spot I think for tree pose because I'm out in my backyard among all the trees, and I'm wearing some giant Crocs so that I can easily slip my foot out when I'm ready to do tree pose, but keep the other foot in my other giant Croc. So before we start, let's just make sure we remember what mindfulness is, and remember too that there are many ways we could describe this, but at its most basic, we would call mindfulness the ability to pay attention on purpose to the present moment, so to whatever is happening right now, just maybe one or two things right in this moment. And we pay attention while noticing our thoughts and feelings, but also without reacting to those. So as thoughts and feelings come in, we just stay with the moment, and I'll say more about what that means in just a second. We don't say or do anything in reaction to our thoughts and feelings. And so we practice mindful movement as a way to help us practice this mindfulness. So we intentionally do certain movements and become just fully aware of the movements we're doing and ignore any other distractions as best we can. So when I say distractions, I mean thoughts that come into our head, feelings maybe that come in too, and then also actual distractions around you like sounds or things moving. We try not to pay attention to those while we're doing the mindful movement. And you can imagine how practicing that kind of thing for a long time, it can take a while. It doesn't happen quickly, but practicing that for a while can make it easier to ignore certain distractions or problems that you don't really need to focus your attention on in your everyday life. So when we practice mindfulness in these ways, like with our mindful movement and with the past things we've done, like mindful pauses, which is meditation, also known as meditation, and mindful walks that we've done, when we practice all of these things, they hopefully in time will help us in our regular, just everyday interactions to be a little more mindful in those moments too. Okay, so we're going to practice a mindful movement right now, which is called tree pose. And so mindful movement, you've probably already guessed, is also known as yoga. And instead of doing a whole yoga class, which is many movements and a flow of different poses, we're just going to practice a pose on the right side of our body and on the left side of our body, and it's tree pose. So I'm going to stand up and I'm just going to kind of go back here to make sure you can still see me. And I would have a bench in front of me if I needed to hold on to it for balance. I probably won't need it, but if I do, it's right here. I might though, because this ground is a little uneven. So you want a place where you have some room for your body to stand, and you have something nearby, even like a wall, if you need it to hold on to if your balance is going to be tricky. Okay, and then we're going to start our mindful movement right now. So that means that we are going to try not to pay any attention to anything outside of this moment that we're in, and that includes just a few things. So your body, you'll pay attention to your body. Your breath, you will pay attention to your breath. And then you will pay attention to the thoughts and the feelings that are coming in as you're doing this mindful movement, but without any reaction to them. So by pay attention, I mean you'll notice them. You don't have to try to pretend that you're not thinking or feeling anything, but you just won't do anything about it. So for example, if I'm standing here in tree pose and all of a sudden I remember a phone call I didn't return or an email I didn't return, I would not get out of tree pose and go do that. I'm just going to notice I'm having that thought. I'm going to stay with my mindful movement. I will address those things later. The only time we would end our mindfulness practice like this is when there was an emergency. So if one of these trees all of a sudden started to fall down or there was a fire, then of course I would stop. So you would stop for emergencies, but we would not stop for distractions. Okay, so let's start. Let's stand up nice and tall with our feet about hip distance apart, and let's put our hands on our hips. So you can put them like this, where you're kind of like between your thumb and forefinger is right on your hip, or maybe you even want to make fists and do it like that. I think I'm going to do it like that. So you could do it either way, and just stand up really tall and feel your feet firmly rooted wherever they are. And then just imagine maybe a little string in the top of your head, and it's gently pulling you really tall, your head towards the sky or the ceiling. And then we're going to take the right leg now. So it might look like my left leg to you. We're going to take the right leg And we're going to just kind of tap it out to the right. So tap your toes down, out to the right, and then slide that foot in so that your toes are on the earth and the bottom of your foot is against your left ankle. And then right here is tree pose. Or if you are able to move your foot up your leg, you could do tree pose like that, where your foot is much higher up your leg, but you don't have to. You can keep it really low, so pick that place for your foot. I'm just gonna look down and see, okay, I felt something funny under my foot. Pick that place for your foot, stand tall and balanced, holding on to something if your balance is tricky today, and then set your gaze in one place. So put your eyes on something that is not moving, and let's just be quiet for about 3 breaths. So take 3 intentional breaths. And then very gently just put that foot back down. If you need to maybe shake out your other leg, if it got tired standing, you can do that. If you want to pick a new place for your arms, maybe you reach them up to the sky like tree branches. Sometimes people like to place their palms together and put them at heart's center, it's called. They put their thumbs kind of right in the middle of the chest, because that makes you very aware. There's a lot of awareness in standing like this. So pick another place for your hands to go. Also, sometimes people like to bring them just down like this with palms facing forward. I'm going to do that this time. And then we're going to try the left foot. So I'm going to kick off my croc. We're going to point the toes out to the left and then slide the foot in. Your big toe is still touching the ground and the bottom of your left foot is against your right ankle. And then decide if you want to move that foot somewhere up your leg, you can. Decide if you want to hold on to something for balance, you can do that. And then set your gaze. So put your eyes just on one spot. And then we're going to take 3 inhales and exhales here, being as quiet and still as we can. Your foot back down. So I'm going to put it in my croc so I don't get a bunch of pine needles all over my foot. And then you would just kind of start to go back to your normal posture in the way you might normally have your body. And then you would just kind of perhaps take a moment to reflect, like notice how that felt for you. How did it feel in your body? Was it hard to balance? Was it easy? Did it bother your neck or your back or your leg in any way? What kinds of thoughts and feelings were coming in? Did you notice them? Do you remember? Was it hard or was it easy to ignore them? So just notice without any judgment. There isn't a pass or a fail or a good or a bad. You're just going to notice what it felt like to do your mindful movement. And thank you. I hope you'll be with me next time.